Hi guys, Wargamer Dad here, just doing a quick tutorial. Today we're going to be putting together the Primaris Chaplin. This is the new guy with the awesome skeletal chest plate. As you can see, this guy comes in the blue plastic. This particular one is from the front of Conquest magazine, which I've been so far collecting religiously, which is good if you're building a chaplain. So I'm just going to start by taking some of the bits off the model. Now, off the sprue even. If you can get a pair of clippers that clip flat, that's great, but most leave some on. This pair is actually a cheap pair that I had to get to replace my pair, which broke. I'm just going to trim this flash off. Put them on the base. And very carefully, ooh, wrong way around, try and take all this guy off the, there we go, off the sprue without damaging anything. Some of the bits of the model are delicate, so it's always going to be a bit tricky. I'm just going to very delicately try and take these bits of flash off the model. I think I may need to change over to a new blade relatively soon. Be very, very careful, because I don't want to damage any of this really awesome detailing. Not entirely sure why the new Marines are quite so religious, to be honest. A lot of the background had it that they were built by call on the original basis of Marines, unless he's been updating their software with updating their training with newer Marine training, which includes some of the psycho-indoctrination towards religious ideology. I'm not entirely sure why they need a chaplain per se. I'd have thought they'd have been far more towards the Imperial doctrine. Let's have a quick look at these feet. I love these feet. They're much more elegant and much more sort of like traditional armour. Although they do remind me of Stormcast Eternals. They're very, very Stormcast Eternal in the Pauldrons. Pauldrons? Yeah. He's got a big cloak because nothing says I'm a serious fighter than huge flowy robes that get in the way. When it comes to cloaks and that, I think they look really cool, but realistically I'm with Edna Mode. Knockips. Be very, very gentle. Quick warning at home. You can see I'm cutting towards my thumb here. Don't do that, it's stupid. It's a habit I've developed over the years, and I tend to be able to do it without slicing my thumb, but not always. I'm often cutting into my thumb. It is dumb, it is stupid. You should cut away from yourself, and you should do things like cut like this much more, but I'm an idiot, what can I say? You see, this goes together very simply with no no gaps, and that's really nice, and this is going to fit in there again, the model fits together very, very well, near perfectly, which is kind of what we've come to expect from pretty much all GW models. So I'm just going to stop here and literally assemble this bit. You'll see me sort of doing it in sections. I prefer to do it in sections. There are some instructions that come with this, whether or not you buy it from the whether or not you buy it from the whether or not you buy it as part of the Conquest set or as part of a different set. Sorry, I stopped to cut this off because I just needed to check whether or not this had a nodule on it. Some of them, they have a little flat bit on the bottom, which means you have to assemble it as part of. This one I was just taking off so I could have a look at it and see that it just slots in that hole there, so I can glue this and then attach. You see, I'm trying not to put too much glue on it. I'm covering every edge that sticks together, and we've had a look at it. We know that this edge sticks together, and this edge sticks together. So I just want to run glue down both sides. Some people only run glue down one side. I tend to do both sides just because the glue basically melts the plastic. Now what you want to do is you want to hold it, in both cases by bits that don't have glue on them, and you want to just slide it together like that. Just blowing some of the excess glue off. I did not need to put glue down there. I'm just going to quickly remove that with the back of the blade gently so as not to damage the model. It doesn't melt in too much. If you put glue on bits that aren't meant to be glued, it isn't the end of the world. Just try not to press into it with your fingers, because it will it will leave a kind of thumbprint effect, and that just doesn't look good on your models. Now we can see the bits here that are meant to glue in, because they're all the bits that have flattened parts and don't have detail. That's fairly easy to see. But as I say, if you've bought it, check the instructions. You can literally just read the instructions as you go and build it from the instructions. It is not a bad idea to read the instructions first and then go back to it, which is what I've done. Now you'll notice I'm not sticking this one on the base. I'm just using this base at the moment to show it. That's because I'm planning to do a separate base for it later, but that'll be something I do afterwards. Okay, so now I'm just going to deselect some of these bits. Yeah. Deselect, connect some of these bits. Deselect. One of the reasons I'm doing it a bit at a time is because some of these bits, like this skull is a fraction of the size you'd expect the end of a Crazy Arcanus to be on a normal Marine, but it looks much better. But because of that, I really don't want to lose it. So I'm just going to very carefully trim the chin. You notice I'm using my fingernails to take some of the plastic off. Often the plastic is soft enough that for tiny bits you can just rub them flat with your fingernail and a little bit of force. Again, you can see I'm just being very careful, using a good sharp knife to trim some of that off. You have to be very careful because this bit of flash here is, as you can see, thicker than this bit of detail. Now the reason I'm cutting towards the spikes rather than, for example, towards the hands for the main bit was I'd much rather remove a spike than a finger. I can probably remodel a spike and people wouldn't really notice if it was gone. So I'm just being as careful as I can. These kits from GW are frankly amazing. The detail on them is fantastic. You compare it to some of the kits released just a few years ago and they're much more detailed. They're much better. I'm a big fan of Primaris Marines. I love the old Marines, but frankly the Primaris are better. There you go. See, he's holding up that bunny there. So I'm going to let that dry a bit. I'm not going to move on to the skull straight away. I'm going to just trim the head off and trim the others because the skull's a very delicate bit. So I want to give the arm a little time to dry before I try and attach the skull. Be aware, the plastic glue dries within a matter of minutes, so it's very good. But at the same time, if you try and handle it too early, it will come apart, at which point you need to add more glue, and that's when you start damaging the look of the model. I'm not going to add too many details onto this. I'm debating whether or not to add the iron halo just because it is really delicate, and frankly I don't know whether I want it on the model because it has a good chance of snapping off during transport. And you see that the iron halo fits in this, it'll just sit in this little slot here. I'll probably add it on just because I'm a completionist, but then it'll probably snap off at some point, either after I've painted the model or during the painting of the model, because I intend to give this model a reasonably good paint job if I can. Nope. No. You should always do this. It'll stop your thing bunging up. You can see I'm using a precision applicator. This one's a Revell precision applicator. It really is no different than the GW precision applicator in how it works or how you use it, and in how it bungs up. The quality of the glue is perhaps a little better. I was always surprised that GW were able to make their precision applicator, being as these Revell applicators have been around for years, well before GW did theirs. So I'm wondering if GW are paying Revell for the copyright to the applicator design, or whether perhaps it predates Revell even. But certainly the contactor glue that Revell produced is the oldest, or the older of the two glues. Here we've got the blank shield. I'm just going to pause the video temporarily while I actually get something from my bits box. Bear with me a second, guys. I'm back. Sorry for that slight delay there. As I was going to say, I forgot to bring something with me. Here we've got the blank shoulder pad. That would sit on there just like any shoulder pad would. I'm just going to trim that down before I put it away so I don't forget. But I'm not going to be using this shoulder pad. I am a Dirty Space Wolf player, so I'm going to put that to one side, and then I'm going to bring out this here, which is the Dirty Space Wolf accessory kit. Now with this one, bear with me a second. With this one, I'm going to trim one of the shields off. One of the shoulder pads off. Now, as you can see, I've got a couple of more ornate shoulder pads and a couple of ones that are cool looking for the extra armor, but they've all got dangly bits on. And one of the things that always annoys me is having a dangly bit pointing upwards. So I'm just going to use a plain shoulder pad for now. Yes, Maxie? Milkshake. Well, you can't have milkshake now. You'll have to wait. I'll make it for you in a minute. Strawberry or chocolate, Maxie? Strawberry? Okay, as soon as I'm done here, I'll make you a strawberry milkshake, my boy, okay? Love you, baby boy. Bye-bye. Sorry about that interruption there. He likes a strawberry milkshake, he certainly does. Right, so... Oh. See, that was slightly cut in too far, that's why you've got to be careful, but... Paint job, with the paint job on, no one knows. See, here I've got basically just a standard Space Wolf shoulder pad. Worth noting, I don't actually play Space Wolves, I play Shadow Wolves, which is a variant of Space Wolves. They can be found in the Aaron Dembski Bowden novels. They are an Imperial Fist successor chapter, but they're wolfish enough that you can get away with using the Space Wolf rules and no one cares. I use them primarily because I really like the colour scheme, and the last time I painted Space Wolves, I did an entire Great Company. I did so much of an entire Great Company that every time GW expanded the rules, I didn't need to buy more models. Which, if you know how much the Great Companies grew every time GW went, here's another cool Space Wolf thing, you'll know that perhaps that's a lot of Space Wolves to be painting. And frankly, I just don't want to paint Space Wolf Grey ever again. I love the Space Wolves, but I just don't want to do the colour scheme ever again. So these guys are going to be a deep purple. You might have seen some of my things before. Oh, you may hear a knocking every time I take the glue away. It's because I do this. The idea is to tap any excess glue down there to try and keep it clear, so that it doesn't bung up. If it does bung up, if you've got one of these and they bung up, I've got a great video on clearing it. The easiest way to clear them is to use fire. If you are a child, or even if you're a mature child and legally under the age of using lighters, get an adult to do it. Legal disclaimer right there. Well, you can see that's stuck on beautifully. With the delicate bits, you want to make sure you have a solid base, because you don't want to accidentally muck it up and spend ages having to redo it. Now let's look at this other arm. Going to take his revolver pistol. Resolver? That's not what I want. That's not the name of the pistol. Oh, what's the name of the pistol? Absolver. That's it. His Absolver pistol. Basically just says, it's okay, you get to die now. Or to use the recently ended Game of Thrones Nightwatch thing, it gets to say, and now your watch is over. Which is strange, because I assume Space Marines always told time inside their helms. That's a little humour there. Don't worry, I don't do it that much. If you think my jokes are awful, I will refer you again to the name of the channel, Wargamer Dad. Every one of my jokes are awful. I'm having to practice because dads tell awful jokes. Now, I am not going to drill the barrel on this model. I don't tend to drill barrels just because... Oops, sorry. I think you can kind of get away with just a black barrel end more than you can get away with drilling it. I've seen so many people drill barrels and they almost all end up lopsided, which to me just looks worse than if you hadn't drilled the barrel at all. That and frankly, I don't think that makes that much of a difference. That's not to say that drilling barrels doesn't look good, and in some cases it can be really it can really bring the model a little bit better, a little bit more to life and reality. For example, on the rhinos that I used to have, obviously I don't use them anymore because Primaris, but on the rhinos I used to have, I used to drill the exhaust ports because they're massive and flat, and I never understood why that bigger detail, such as the holes in the exhausts of the rhinos, was left out. With the barrels though, it really depends on the size of the gun. I think with most of the guns and pistols you can get away with it. Perhaps if you're using a heavy bolter or a las cannon and the barrel is flat, you might want to consider drilling it then, but it just seems like a bit of extra effort to me that I don't want to be bothered with. That's one of the things about collecting 40k armies. There is a lot that you have to do if you want the army to look good. So adding extra stuff on is sometimes just too much work. Right, now where does this bunny go? Like that, I think it's for that. Yeah, that goes there. Perfect. Okay. You may notice me repeatedly dry fitting parts. Dry fitting is just where you put the part on and make sure it fits. Now, you might think, oh, hang about, it's a GW model, it's gonna fit. And in all fairness to the quality of GW models, you'd be right. 9 times out of 10, it is a GW model, so it's going to fit. But every now and then it doesn't, and that's when you find that you kind of almost muck up models because you've... There! That'll fucking learn me. Yeah, you'll find you muck up models because you try and glue something, it doesn't fit, or perhaps you just put it in the wrong place. So dry fitting a lot of your parts is often a better way to go. I'm just gonna... Now I'm doing this just because there's a few bits that I don't want to knock, and there you go. So I can just pop it in place and just slide it into place there, and you can see that's stuck into place perfectly well. Right, I think I will stick on this iron halo. I'm not sure if it's described on the model as an iron halo, but to me this is always going to be an iron halo that gives you a 2-up invuln save. This is very delicate, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to place it flat on the surface like that, holding it down, so no matter how hard I press I can't break it. And then I'm going to just push down with the knife against the surface there. Come on, you see I've taken the main bit of flash off, and I can use the knife to delicately trim off a little more if I have to. Right, and you can see that will fit in there. Let's see which way around that goes. One seems to fit, that seems to fit better, but let's see. One sticks it right over his head. Yeah, so I think it's this way around. You may notice I will often try, and if I can, I'm just going to use a little bit more glue there to put it in the part that I'm not touching. Again, that's because even with a precision applicator, the glue can dribble over, and you end up with glue on your fingers, which is when you end up pressing it into the wrong place in the model, which is when you end up making fingerprint marks and losing detail. So that fits there. And then this helmet. It's probably easy to pop the helmet in, but frankly, I've been debating whether or not to replace it with a Space Wolfie head. Frankly, I like the skull too much, so I'm going to keep the skull, because as anybody who makes models for GW will tell you, skulls are cool. You see, I'm just spraying that around again. It's going in the part that I'm not touching, because that's harder to muck up. The face will... Oop. Let's pop that in there. I'm just gonna make sure that's in properly. Nope, it doesn't have any shift, and as you can see, this bit's really delicate, so I'm trying not to touch it. See, he's sort of coming in, holding it high, looking down as if he's preaching on somebody, which is why I actually want to give him a slightly raised base, so that when he is looking at other Marines, even his own height, the downward gaze is going to be a bit more appropriate. I'm probably going to stick some steps and just have him looking down going, "You foolish mortal." But there you go. You can see it's very easy to stick together, even with a slight modification. As you see, that shoulder pad will stick on exactly the same way as the shoulder pad you get there. They're available from GW. They're about £10–12, I believe. I can't remember. It's a while since I bought it. And there you can see that he's a very nice model. Looks very good. As I say, little Stormcast turn on the knees, but Nobody's perfect, and I'm just going to put him there and leave him there for now. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope it helps any of you who find the instructions a bit confusing. And yeah, one built Primaris Chaplin. I can't even speak today. Have a nice day, guys. Bye. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that video, and if you did, remember to like and subscribe to my channel. I'm also on Facebook and Twitter. Not sure why, but I am. So if you like it, see me there, and please tell your friends. Thanks very much. Bye.